afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to be seated, please. I'm Jody Sanford, and I have the great pleasure of being the Dean of the Evans School of Public Policy and Governance. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to our in-person graduation to celebrate the graduates of 2022. I'm just so excited. 2 weeks ago, I was up at the University of British Columbia watching my own son graduate from college. And as the parents and relatives in the audience, there's a little bit of thing in your heart that catches when you watch your graduate come on to the floor. And I'm so grateful we're going to be celebrating them today. I'm also particularly proud because at the Evans School, we are pretty clear about our key purpose: to inspire public service and democratize public policy. And when you look at this group of people, the inspiration to do that is clear. We're also celebrating our 60th anniversary this year, and so these graduates follow in the line of a long tradition of people who are committed to trying to make democracy work better for all of our citizens and all of the people of the world. And as I thought about today, I wanted to just frame this community in terms of a tapestry, because I feel like what we're trying to do in the education at Evans is to weave together scholarship, skill building, and other experiences. And now you share that with a group of alumni that are 5,300 strong who live in over 30 countries. I think that the Evans School education really provides you with new threads and new skills that you can weave into whatever you do in the future. I want you graduates to sit there and just pause and think about the threads that you picked up to get to this point. Who inspired you to think of public service? Remember to thank them. Who put the idea of graduate school in your mind? Thank them for their belief in you. Who helped give you feedback and support during the application process? Thank them for giving you tactical support. And who helped you navigate all the questions that were in your mind? Starting graduate school in the midst of a pandemic before vaccinations were widespread, moving across the country or decreasing your work hours, imagining how to do graduate education on top of at a top national program while caring for young children or medically fragile family members. Thank them for all those conversations that bolstered you. The last few years have been a lot. And I think when you're in the middle of that work, it's hard to see this tapestry that you're actually weaving. Think about how you grew as a student and as a community member. You pushed yourself into unfamiliar topics. You debated ideas with people who thought very differently than you. You developed new understandings of institutions and practices that have reflected elite white people's norms. You've engaged in the hard work of learning and pushing yourself while contending with a lot of outside challenges. Think of the times in the pandemic when you believed you just could not do another Zoom course. Think about the stress that you felt when you were feeling lost or feeling isolated. And in this community, we lost 2 community members, both bright lights with big hearts who made an impact on our community and those around them. We're living at a time when there's greater awareness and conversations about racial violence and pursuing racial justice. You've seen the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Emmanuel Ellis, and so many other names by armed officers. And you also know that the institutional changes that are necessary may be less visible than protests, but they're really essential to changing what is. You've been witnessing the challenge to democracy and a lack of faith in public institutions. We've witnessed an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol around false claims of a stolen election, and many, many other moments when our collective sense of what is possible faltered. Today, we have to own up to those experiences and see it as part of what you're weaving into the tapestry of your professional life. In each of these moments, there's a choice, right, related to your character, to how you understand yourself, your identity as a professional. And in the last 2 years, this has not been easy. There are times when you made the right choices, and also maybe times that you didn't. But we have to recognize that these choices happen in the larger context. And now, as people who are educated at this amazing school, it's part of our collective responsibility to be working on those choices. And I think actually now you're really equipped to do just that. When I think about what you're taking away, I hope you've learned how to think deeply and pragmatically about policy and systems change. You've read painstaking research, listened to talented practitioners, and engaged in heated debates. I also think that you understand the assumptions about racial identity that's kind of baked into our society and policy, and learned how to ask questions that try to uncover the root causes of social inequity and how policy can be part of changing that. And I also hope that you're taking a sense of responsibility because you're graduating from one of the best public policy schools in the country. I want to help you make sure none of you are imposters. You're all the real deal, and sitting here in the chair today is proof of that to my colleagues and your community. You will bring those common threads, all of those ideas with you into whatever you do next, and it's going to look different in each person. Some of you, I know, ended up loving statistics and complex modeling and economic logic, and you want to apply those tools to uncovering problems and developing solutions. Others gained insights about how systems operate, how to mobilize and manage people, and are stepping into positions where they can redesign and rebuild programs and organizations. And still others have deepened their interest in electoral politics, right? And some of you carried out that passion in student government and realized the satisfaction and the challenge of trying to represent other people. Throughout it all, it's my deepest wish that you interact with others in your family and friends, reflect on what this has meant to you. And I hope in this experience, during this very difficult time, you found an opportunity to be hopeful. I really feel like hope is the most powerful force in the universe. With it, you can inspire yourself, you can overcome odds, and you can deal with incredible loss. I think with hope, you can also reframe others' understanding of what is and enable them to be part of the solution. And while it's been difficult to have hope during this time, we also have a lot of experiences where hope can mobilize others. So with that, I'd like to introduce a very special person who has given me a lot of hope in the last few months, the convocation speaker. After her speech, you're going to have a chance to hear from some students who were a representative from our PhD, EMPA, and MPA programs, but wanted to start first with my colleague, Vaughn Sharp. The graduating class identified her as our top choice for the speaker. She is the president of the National Congress of American Indians and former chairwoman 5 times of the Quinault Nation in northwestern Washington on the Olympic Peninsula. So in the last few months, I've had the great privilege to interact with Vaughn, engage her in deep conversations. She wanted so much to physically be present with us, but a couple weeks ago, she got an invitation from the United Nations to go to Israel to be a representative to deal with climate change and some of the unintended consequences that we all know of that changing policy environment. So we caucused and made the decision that she would capture her remarks on a video. And so with that, I would like to introduce Vaughn Sharp and her comments that she feels so deeply as gifts to you this afternoon.
Hauk, Yuhuch, Anjek Hiwishka. Congratulations to the class of 2022. My name is Fawn Sharp. I serve as president of the National Congress of American Indians and vice president at the Quinault Indian Nation. I am so very honored to provide these remarks and so excited for every one of you who are about to graduate and go on to that next chapter of your life during these exciting times. I'm coming to you here at my homeland. Right behind me is the beautiful and pristine Lake Quinault, and I'm sitting right next to the mighty Quinault River, where my ancestors have lived, fished, and just had a way of life for centuries. And so this area where I stand right now has never been part of the United States. From the beginning of time to the end of time, these are places, very sacred and spiritual places where my ancestors and certainly future generations of Quinaults will live. And so I'm truly honored to be here to provide these remarks from this very special place that means so much to me. I want to begin just by, first of all, extending a congratulations to everyone who's there in attendance. Anyone who is in attendance, I'm positive, is either a parent, a grandparent, a sibling, an aunt or an uncle or a cousin, a family, or even family friends. And so anytime we see an individual succeed to the degree that we're witnessing today, we know that we didn't do it alone, that there were so many people that were part of our life that were very instrumental in either mentoring us, inspiring us, supporting us, or even providing that extra little bit of financial push at a time where it seems like things are impossible to get through studies and work and all those things that it takes to get to the place where you are. So congratulations to every single person in attendance, and especially to our 2022 graduates. I have lived here on the Quinault Reservation from the time I was born until I was about 15, and it was at that time I graduated from high school and left here, this beautiful place at Quinault, to pursue higher education, and I returned when I was 25 after achieving a law degree. And since that time, since I was 25, and nearly a quarter of a century later, I have dedicated an entire lifetime to serving my community, serving Indigenous peoples, and the public at large. And the message I want to deliver to you is one about our responsibility, duty, and truly a blessing and honor to serve others, and to be able to be in a position during these critical times when it seems like there's so much uncertainty, fear, doubt, and unknowns with respect to what we're facing, whether it's the climate crisis, a global pandemic, or just the political upheaval that we're witnessing and wars across the globe. But although there are all these uncertainties, there are a few things that are very certain. And I want to just reflect a little bit on my career and in my professional life to share some lessons. And I want to start at the local level. As I said, I was 15 when I graduated from high school. I left to go to Highline Community College, and my grandfather fell ill with Parkinson's disease, and I returned home to graduate from Grace Harbor College. And during that time, I had a chance to experience leadership on a local level. I served as a basketball coach for 5th and 6th graders, and in the spring, I coached a team of about 18 5 through 8-year-olds on a t-ball team. We were the Mighty Tigers. And so I had an experience of engaging with our citizens. I also served as a volunteer explorer with our local cop shop in Tahola. And so I had a chance to know that it didn't require a degree for me to serve. It didn't require me to have a position to serve. I could take time out at a local level, engage with kids, talk with kids, and just share them the lessons that I had achieved as a 16-year-old at that time. And so that was incredibly valuable, and it taught me early in my career and my educational career that it doesn't take a degree to serve, but we do have a responsibility and an opportunity to serve in our local communities, and that opportunity exists every single day. The next level of leadership that I had a chance to aspire to is a leadership role within my own nation. I served as five-term presidency for about 15 years, and during that time, I served as president of the Affiliated Tribes of Northwest Indians, which is made up of about 70 tribes in the Northwest. And in that position, I was elected to serve for the very first time on the board of the National Congress of American Indians. And so I learned that I could take all of those leadership skills, those lessons learned as a teenager, transform that into serving my community on a much broader level, whether it's regionally or nationally. And I'm currently journey this last year, really exploring and breaking ground, blazing trails for tribal nations to engage directly at the United Nations at the international level. And I'm finding there that there are many Indigenous leaders all around the world that followed a similar path that I did. From grassroots, literally grassroots, here within the Quinault Reservation, all the way to New York in the United Nations or Geneva, Switzerland. Those are the exciting challenges and opportunities that after a lifetime of public service, I'm able to do right now. And in reflecting back on that, I think it's important to convey to each and every graduate that every single day we have an opportunity to serve, we have an opportunity to share knowledge, and we have an opportunity to inspire the next generation. And along the way, we have an opportunity to honor those that have gone before us, those that have taught us and mentored us and inspired us, to take all those lessons and that investment of time that they made into our life individually to share with the rest of the world. And we literally have that opportunity. And so I really wanted to convey that message to the graduates that while things are challenging and uncertainty, there's a lot of uncertainty and fear and doubt with the world, there are some basic principles that no matter what the circumstance are certain and clear. And that is, if we have an open heart and a mind to serve others, if we do our part to be obedient to those principles and the gifts that we're given and the purpose. Every one of us have a purpose in life, and we can really tap into the skill sets and the gifts that we're given as a blessing and a clear vision for how we can utilize those. The rest takes care of itself. And issue by issue, year by year, circumstance by circumstance, life is filled with just a wide range of opportunities. And I learned early that the magic of a seized opportunity is it multiplies. And when that opportunity multiplies, we have a greater sphere of influence and engagement with others. And it works two ways. While we can influence and inspire others, we get, I found, when you put it out, you get it 10 times back in return, that investment. And so I really want to encourage each and every one of you to recognize that every single day, no matter where you go, no matter who you talk to, no matter what generation that you're relating to, you have an incredible opportunity right in front of you to take what you've learned and to apply it, to solve problems, and to uphold and support one another. Because every one of the challenges that we're facing, no one person, no one country, no one family, no one state can meet these challenges. No one is immune from the broad challenges that we face, but we all have a duty and a responsibility. And if we could just resist the temptation to be divisive, if we could resist the temptation to become apathetic, if we could resist the temptation to feel overwhelmed by the challenges in life and within the world, and just find that small space, those dreams that you held as a child, that vision that you see for yourself long into the future, whether it's a family and children or grandchildren or a certain place you want to go or a certain place you want to live at some point in your life. We all hold those very precious dreams and visions. And it's up to us to spend the time that we have in that common purpose. And when you get to a place where you can look back, as I am in life, of half a century, and know that that was all by design, and every opportunity that I seized, it multiplied and it increased value and increased blessings within my life. So now I'm at a place where I can pick up the phone and talk to colleagues in the Philippines or in Chad, Africa, or the president of the Sami Parliament from northern Norway or Sweden, all the indigenous peoples around the world. And as a child, I never dreamed I'd have that opportunity when I was a young kid swimming here in this lake half a century ago. But each and every one of you possess something special. Each and every one of you possess a gift and a purpose. And just do all you can every single day to find that place and to know that no matter where you go, you have opportunities and you have a calling and you have a leadership role no matter what you do. And take what you've learned with this degree, with the network, the friendships, the professors, and all of those that have really helped you become the person you are today. Honor those gifts by putting that out to the rest of the world, and be prepared when it returns back to you, because invariably it will. So from the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough for this invitation, the opportunity to say a few words. I am so incredibly happy and honored to be able to be here, and just really look forward to, at some point in the future, I have a feeling some of you, class of 2022, I may be crossing paths with. And please reach out to me, and if there's anything I could ever do to provide guidance or support at any time, don't hesitate to reach out. Congratulations. And truly, I am so very happy and honored to be here. Siakwel, thank you.
Hi, what a great act to follow. I'm very humbled. My name is Rebecca de Buen-Kalman. I'm very happy to be here and that we can be here together in person. Thank you, faculty, staff, friends, and fellow students. Picture in your mind that you are in a movie theater and it's 1949. There are many young couples. One of them is a little bit different. For their first date in 1949, Leon and Rosina headed to the movie theater, but each entered separately. First went Rosina, a fair-skinned woman who traces her roots to Mexico. Leon, who was black, waited several minutes before going in and sitting next to her. "We always did it," Leon would say. "We just held our heads high and kept going." When they married in Oakland in 1950, they obtained the first mixed-race marriage license in the state of California. It would be nearly 2 decades before all couples like them across the country were allowed to marry. Policy impacts every aspect of our daily lives, whether we realize it or not. Everything about the social world is the result of a decision that someone is making somewhere. Who you are allowed to marry, how fast your car can go, where developers can build low-income housing are all choices by policymakers enacted by public servants. While policy has the power to positively transform systems and shape perspectives, it can, and often is, used to exclude, discriminate, and marginalize. We are seeing examples of policy designed to hurt people unfold in real time before our eyes. Reduced reproductive rights, transgender people being legislated out of existence, systemic racism in all aspects of public life. We are living in a time where existential threats are compounded and many fundamental rights are being taken away. Addressing the problems that we care about feels as urgent as it does out of reach. But now is not the time to waver. Now is the time to show up. To quote journalist Isabel Wilkerson, "If we don't show up, the awkward becomes acceptable and the acceptable becomes merely inconvenient. Live with it long enough and the unthinkable becomes normal. Exposed over the generations, we learn to believe that the incomprehensible is the way that life is supposed to be." Leon and Rosina Watson, my great aunt and uncle, were an anomaly when they decided to get married in 1950. They lived to celebrate almost 70 years of their union. Today, nearly 20% of all newlyweds in the United States are married to someone of a different race or ethnicity. Their life was possible because of a policy change that corrected a historic wrong. But this change did not happen on its own. It was the result of people showing up to fight for equality. Everyone in this room has a story like this one, where lives important to them were shaped one way or another by public policy. I would venture a guess that is one of the reasons we have decided to pursue a policy degree. We ultimately want to uplift the lives of the communities we care about. Those of us here ready to pursue careers in the public sphere have an opportunity to influence positively the decisions that affect so many people's lives if we show up and fight together. Let's keep showing up. Let's keep fighting. I look forward to seeing you out there. Thank you and congratulations.
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Stevens, and I'm a member of the Tulalip tribes. I come from the Snohomish and the Suquamish people. Before I begin, as a parent with my husband and as allies, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate Pride Month with my two-spirit daughter here, and friends, family, and everyone who's here today. Thank you to the Evans School for the opportunity to address the graduating class of 2022. I'd also like to thank the Executive MPA staff for all of their time and commitment and support for all of us. But especially I'd like to thank my peers in cohort 18, whose curiosity, open-heartedness, friendship buoyed us all through these challenging times. I love all of you. Over a century ago, my great-grandfather attempted to enroll his children at the town school outside of our reservation, but was turned away. You see, his son had become gravely ill at the U.S. boarding school on our reservation. So he removed all of his kids from the school. He was then jailed for a month in a cell on the shore, a cell that the tide would rise into. Once freed, he went down to the town school, but was told that because he did not pay taxes, his children could not attend. Undeterred, my great-grandfather purchased a piece of land just outside the reservation in the town's jurisdiction and paid the taxes. He returned to the town school with the children in tow, his children in tow, and said, "Now you must teach them." My great-grandfather confronted and challenged the U.S. boarding school system to change the outcome for not only his children, but generations he would never meet. Although he prevented further harm to his kids at the hands of the boarding school, the effects of the U.S. boarding school policy, Kill the Indian and Save the Man, an extension of the doctrine of discovery and manifest destiny, resulted in worse, even fatal outcomes for those who could not leave. This policy resonates today as Indigenous cultural and familial ties were altered, harmed, and severed in many generations. As I stand here today with an advanced degree from a dominant culture institution, I'm not fluent in my native language, which is true for so many of my generation, because for decades, speaking my language and practicing our culture was illegal and severely punished. I share this story because at pivotal moments of my life, I ask myself, how did I get here? This foundational question is a critical one for the work that we, as graduates of the Evans School and as public servants, must ask in order to help solve the pressing injustices that exist today. We must delve into the past to seek out the origins of systemic and institutional racism, marginalization, and exclusion. This simple but revealing question allows us to understand the effects and outcomes of the original, deeply embedded policy upon which our society was founded. As public servants, it's incumbent upon us to take that hard, perhaps uncomfortable, look at the past to know how we arrived here today. My story and my family's stories are not unique. Stories like this can be heard in almost any historically underserved and marginalized community, with long-ranging generational effects of centuries-old policies seen in today's inequitable and disparate outcomes. Which is why we must include the voices, the lived experiences, and histories of those affected. So we must also ask, who isn't represented here? And create space at the table for them. With a diverse and inclusive inquiry, we have an opportunity to better understand and truly confront, challenge, and change even the most difficult, harmful, and systemic policies. So my challenge to all of us as we move forward into our futures as Evans graduates working to create a more just and equitable world is that in our work, in our research, in our academia, and our personal lives to ask these three fundamental questions. How did we arrive here today? How do these systemic policies present themselves today? And how do we make space for those who have been historically underrepresented? Tigwitsi, thank you.
Hello, my name is Kasima Lee, and I am honored to stand here before you all. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the support of my parents and grandma throughout my entire journey. Lotte Papa, and my wonderful fiance, Armand, Ashegatam. And of course, the greatest treasure from the last 2 years at this school, the friends I made along the way. I would like to give a special shout out to Kenny, Varsha, and Devani, who helped me write these words I share with you today. The toll of these last 2 years has been incomprehensible, exacerbated by unexpected turnover and change within Parrington, which left no student unsheltered, which left no student sheltered from feelings of uncertainty and fear. Since my first day at Evans in September of 2020, we've seen over 800,000 COVID-related deaths in the US alone, over 1,000 fatal mass shootings, the rise of hate crimes, the end of a war and another starting, and 2 back-to-back refugee crises. And for those, I would like to take a moment of silence. But despite crisis after crisis, we all chose to find community in virtual spaces, to support each other when atrophying systems failed us, and most importantly, we learned to work in solidarity with leaders and change makers to advance anti-racist, equitable change. The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and beautiful one of all, to quote my favorite Disney movie. So based on that logic, I am looking at probably the most beautiful garden I have ever seen. Our work as public leaders is more than just work that can be left alone when we go home. It is work that will impact our community, and it is up to us to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion into our everyday. As we've seen, racism and discrimination underpin some of our greatest challenges. Afghan refugees face greater obstacles than Ukrainian refugees. People with disabilities face higher mortality rates from COVID-19. And our Black and Indigenous neighbors feel the disproportionate effects of climate change. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just a statement that gets posted on an organization's website. It is rather a way to move our society forward. So, I challenge you all to speak up against the status quo, to tear down inequities wherever you see them, and to confront problems with compassion and community. I've seen you all do much harder things, so I know you can do this. So with that, congratulations to the members of the 2022 class from the Evans School of Public Policy and Governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, Tracy, and Kasima for your poignant and inspiring words that so encapsulate and capture the amazingness that is this class of 2022. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Kay Gugerty. I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Associate Dean for Teaching and Learning here at the Evans School. And on behalf of the Evans School faculty, it is my pleasure to present this afternoon awards to our graduates who have excelled in their Evans School academic and leadership activities. While we will recognize some of the class of 2022 this afternoon, I want to acknowledge that there are so many ways that all of you have contributed to the school and during your time here Those of you that I know, those that I haven't gotten a chance to meet, I hear so many stories from colleagues and faculty. So I want to take a moment to recognize and thank you for showing up for each other, and for leaving the school a better place than you found it. Thank you all. When I read an awardee name or names for the team-based awards, I'll ask the recipients to stand, and then afterwards, all award recipients can receive their certificate from our terrific staff in the concourse after the ceremony. I am going to begin with our Executive MPA Student Awards. As part of their final course in the EMPA program, students develop a capstone portfolio under the guidance of EMPA Faculty Director and Professor Stephen Page. The portfolio demonstrates their leadership development and application of program content within their professional experience. This year, the overall quality of the capstones was exceptional, and it was clear that students had approached the project with great care and dedication. We have two student recipients we'd like to recognize this afternoon with the Outstanding EMPA Capstone Award. Those students are Nina Park and Katie Steffens. Congratulations, Nina and Katie. You each provided a detailed analysis and thoughtful reflection of your learning experiences in the program while providing intentional plans for next step in your professional growth. Congratulations. Our next Executive MPA Award is the Exceptional EMPA Student Award. The recipient of this honor is selected by EMPA faculty, and the award goes to a student who exhibits outstanding leadership, dedication to the Evans School and their cohort, and overall academic achievement in the EMPA program. This year's Exceptional Executive MPA Student Award goes to Frederick Lewis Wade. Congratulations, Frederick, and thank you for all the contributions you've made to the program, to your cohort, and to the school. Congratulations as well to Nina and Katie and to all of the outstanding class of 2022 Executive MPA graduates. For our MPA graduates this year, our Capstone Awards recognize graduates whose final capstone project was found to be exceptional, exemplifying clear problem definition, excellent methodology, the incorporation of diverse perspectives, and recommendations for feasible and innovative policy solutions. Before I go through the awards, I would like to thank all the faculty who supervised and nominated capstones this year: Akhtar Badshaw, Erica Barnhart, Grant Bloom, Allison Cullen, Marika Claywitter, Joaquin Herranz, Adrian Quinn, and Matt Stewart. Thank you so much for your efforts on behalf of our students. The first prize we'd like to acknowledge today, and I should say before I start that as someone who got the opportunity to serve on the Capstone Committee this year, the quality of the capstones was truly amazing. I learned so much from each and every one, so I want to congratulate everyone who was nominated. It was a real honor and a privilege to read these capstones. The first one I would like to present is the Environmental Policy and Management Research Prize, which goes to an independent capstone completed by Emily Laura Stevens, supervised by Allison Cullen. So Emily, if you're here, please stand. Emily's capstone was entitled All Lands, All Plans, Regional and Forest Level Planning and Coordination in Eastern Washington Forests. Congratulations, Emily. The next prize is the International Development Research Prize, which goes to a team supervised by Professor Akhtar Badshaw for their project entitled, and maybe I'll read their names first. The prize awardees are Caitlin Elizabeth Harrington, Emily Florence Morley, Gabrielle Pavia, and Ayomi Rajapakse. Their project was entitled Risk in Spanish-Speaking Central American Youth, Determining Risk and Protective Factors for Adolescent Sexual Health, Mental Health, and Violent Behavior. Congratulations, Caitlin, Emily, Gabrielle, and Naomi. The Justice and Diversity Research Prize goes to a team supervised by Professor Erica Mills Barnhart for their project entitled Redesigning Team Read's Governance Structure, Supporting Growth and Racial Equity. So please stand Eleanor Guthrie, Madison Immel, Caitlin Rebecca Cray O'Mara, and Jillian Robinson. Congratulations, Eleanor, Madison, Caitlin, and Jillian. The Nonprofit Management and Philanthropy Research Prize this year is awarded to 4 students supervised by Professor Adrian Quinn, Gail Chan, Kelsey Figoni, Nicholas Lipari, and Jesse Andrew Sturge, and their project was entitled A Critical Analysis of Bridge Housing Move-Out Data. So please stand, Gail, Kelsey, Nicholas, Jesse. Congratulations on your work. The Social Policy Research Prize also goes to a student team supervised by Professor Adrian Quinn, and the student awardees are Matthew Hasso, Stephen Leo Kramer, Claire Phillips, and Kyle Ward. Please stand. Their project is entitled The Impact of Washington State's Paid Family and Medical Leave Program on Benefit Requirements. Congratulations, Matthew, Stephen, Claire, and Kyle. All right, I have 2 more projects before I move on to other awards. This year's Policy and Governance Research Prize goes to a student team supervised by Professor Matt Stewart. The student team consists of Catherine Bruns, Adam Saul, Eric Scott, and James Wesley Trocmay. Their project was entitled Improving Washington Shellfish Aquaculture Permitting Efficiency. And the final capstone prize we would like to recognize this year is the Financial Management and Budgeting Prize. This goes to a student team supervised by Professor Adrian Quinn. The student team consists of Robbie Cunningham Adams, Michael Connor Ford, Connor Martin Ukuyo, and Mackenzie Ann Visser, and their project is entitled Evaluating Cost Containment and Affordable Housing. So please stand. Congratulations, Robbie, Michael, Connor, and Mackenzie, and congratulations to all the awardees and to all of you who completed such excellent capstone work. Again, it was a true pleasure to read. The final award that we would like to give this afternoon is a community award. It's the Daniel J. Evans Award for Outstanding Leadership. This is given to a graduating student with a record of innovative leadership and public service during their MPA studies. This year, on behalf of our community, I am pleased to present the Daniel J. Evans Leadership Award to Kenny Mun Tran. As many shared when nominating him for this honor, Kenny has been an exceptional advocate for his peers. He has served in a number of roles, including being a lead ambassador, a board member on the Evans Student Organization, a teaching assistant, and a leader across many of our student interest groups. Kenny has dedicated his time in the program to creating a more inclusive Evans School and makes an effort to get to know everyone he meets. From first years to second years, Kenny's impact on the school is evident, and he has significantly contributed to the class of 2022. Congratulations, Kenny. Again, congratulations to all of our award winners and to all of our outstanding class of 2022. It is now my pleasure to welcome Professor Hill to the podium to begin the presentation of the graduates.
Good afternoon. My name is Heather Hill. As a member of the Evans School faculty and the PhD program director, it's my honor to commence the presentation of our class of 2022 graduates with the awarding of 4 PhD degrees in public policy and management. As I call their names, each graduate will come to the stage to be hooded by the chair of their dissertation committee. The act of putting the hood over the graduate's head signifies the successful completion of their PhD. Alicia Young Un An. Alicia's dissertation is titled Household Perceptions of Earthquake Risks and Protective Measure Adoption Intentions. Professor Allison Cullen chaired Alicia's committee. Other members included Professors David Layton, Michael Lindell, and Daryl Holman. Sorry, and Ann Bostrom was the chair, not Allison Cullen. Congratulations to Dr. On the outstanding achievement of earning her PhD in public policy and management. Sarah Charns. Sarah's dissertation is titled Essays on Food Insecurity and Food and Nutrition Assistance Policy in the United States. Sarah's committee was chaired by Professor Jacob Vigder. Other members included Professors Rachel Feil, Jennifer Otten, and Brian Dillon. Congratulations, Dr. Charns, on the outstanding achievement of earning your PhD in public policy and management. Rebecca DeBuen-Kallman. Rebecca's dissertation is titled Pueblos Bicicleteros, 3 Essays on Cycling Policy in Mexican Cities. Rebecca's dissertation committee was chaired by Professor Allison Cullen. It also included Professors Ann Bostrom, Don McKenzie, and Julian Marshall. Congratulations to Dr. DeBuen-Kallman on the outstanding achievement of earning your PhD in public policy and management. Vedavati Patwardhan. Vedavati's dissertation is titled Essays on Women's Control Over Income, Maternal Cash Transfers, and Rainfall Shocks, Evidence from India and Malawi. Veda's committee was co-chaired by Professors Lee Anderson and Mary Kay Gugerty. Other members included Professors Carolyn Weber and Rachel Heath. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Patwardhan on the outstanding achievement of earning your PhD in public policy and management. Thank you. Please join me in one final round of applause for our 4 PhD graduates.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being with us. I'm Steve Page from the Evans School faculty. I have the privilege of also serving as the program director for our Executive Master of Public Administration program. And I'm lucky enough to read the names of our Executive Master of Public Administration graduates for the class of 2022. Let me ask you to hold your applause until we get through this particular batch in the interest of conserving our body energy and speeding up the time. Austin Raymond Horner. Colin Joseph Cole. Kate Hoffman. Tracy Yeager Blackburn. Elizabeth K. Montoya. Cody Gower. Kaya Caldwell. Michael R. Hogan. Frederick Lewis Wade. Nina Park. Emily Thurston. Jeremy Thomas. Sarah Simpson. Tom O'Connor. Bushra Fatima Zaman. Kathleen O'Leary. Caitlin Schreiber. Michael Seitz. Katie Steffens. Tracy Lee Stevens. Ebony Patinada. Mian Yu. Sarah Nash. Maura Roberts. Shauna He. Michelle Alton Keller. Stephanie Long. Laura Elizabeth Gardner. Angela Steuerman Mullen. Teresa Cardamani. Ann Dahl. Robin Braun. Jennifer Gwynn Kelty. Sarush Malecki. Charles Wesley. We also want to take a moment to remember one member of Cohort 18 who's unable to be with us today. Peter Pope passed away last year during his time in the EMPA, and we all miss him deeply. He left a big gap in Cohort 18. This cohort, despite beginning the program online, has been so close-knit, and Peter was an integral part. We miss him so, so much. To help us acknowledge him, we're joined by his partner, Steve Asher, who's visiting, and Peter's mother, Naomi Wesson, is, I hope, watching from Houston on our live stream. Thanks for being with us. And Charles is going to say a few words on behalf of the cohort about Peter.
Thank you. Today we are together to celebrate and recognize everyone's success completing their programs at the Evans School. And we're recognizing the contributions made by students, faculty, and staff. But today would not be complete without recognizing the contributions of our colleague, Peter Pope. In the early months of the pandemic, we found ourselves embarking on this shared journey, and Peter was an integral part of our cohort from the very beginning. As a proud gay man of color, he brought his lived experience into our shared space and gave voice to the elder LGBTQ+ community that he served. He was a vibrant, thoughtful, and gracious peer. He formed meaningful bonds with many, especially his fellow learning team members. Peter's impact on our cohort can be seen and felt today. Upon his passing, Cohort 18 came together to recognize and memorialize his legacy. Through a collaborative process, it was decided that we would raise funds in his honor and donate to SAGE NYC so that their mission of advocacy and outreach to elder LGBT community could continue. In recognition of this, Peter's name was added to a memorial display at the entrance to their Brooklyn location. Peter's legacy lives on in each of us as we serve others, and his name welcomes everyone who visits SAGE in Brooklyn. To Peter's partner, we thank you for being here with us today. Thank you, Peter, for your contributions to this program and to your community. Your memory and legacy live on with each of us. Thank you.
And the dean has just given Peter's partner, Steve, a honorary certificate of completion from the Evans School. I now present to you the Evans School Executive MPA Class of 2022, Cohort 18. Congratulations to the graduates.
Good afternoon, friends and family of the class of 2022. I'm Professor Allison Cullen.
And I'm Professor Steve Kosak, and we'd now like to introduce you to the 2022 MPA graduates.
Tori Chapman.
Nivya Murthy.
Jason Arthur Chase.
Chelsea Madeline Mickle.
Stephen Leo Kramer.
Augustine Georgia Shugru.
Kalina Marie Bathke.
Jake Tanis.
Varsha Krish.
Devonyi Rose De Leon Whitehead.
Hillary Mae Coleman.
Jonathan Wheeler.
Mary Elizabeth Conley.
Kenyi Moon Tran.
Abigail Rose Anderson.
John Selber.
Caitlin Elizabeth Harrington.
Amanda I. Shee.
Kelsey Elizabeth Fagoni.
Elizabeth Marie Pitts.
Veronica C. Barger.
Eric Martin.
Eleanor McNamara Guthrie.
Yi Sun.
Zachary J. Cefalu.
Xiaotong Zhang.
Cassidy Berlin.
Joseph Cole.
Liang Zhen.
Annalise Quach.
Anna Louise Canning Campbell.
Chandler Walker Gayton.
Tyler Blackwell.
Darlene May O'Connor Germino.
Gail Chan.
Rochelle Robin Rapp.
Joshua Hayden Grombush.
Tessa Nania.
Mingyu Ali Jin.
Mariam Traori.
Grace Cooper Adams.
So Young Shin.
Sophia Eveliza Alcarez.
Courtney Williams.
Nivi Arvind.
Emily Laura Stevens.
Kat Jacinto.
Adam Saul.
Marie Higginbotham.
James Wesley Truckmay.
Jen Sharoni.
Eric Scott.
Peter Haynes.
Anand Rao.
Madison Rose Bristol.
Claire Phillips.
Tiffany Ha.
Kyle Ward.
Kate DeCramer.
Heidi Marvasti Sadri.
Emma Diamond.
Daniel Brooks Majankulda.
Erin Elizabeth Browning.
Hunter Christopher Smith.
Aaron J. Cahan.
Peyton Swinford.
Callista Jensine Intner John.
Jennifer Sue Rogers.
Catherine Dickey.
Douglas Everett Wagoner.
Natalie Hurd.
Amanda Brooke Saxton.
Altanai Karasapan.
Gabrielle Rivera.
Catherine Bruns.
Mustafa Dagan Yildiz.
Robert Cunningham Adams.
Kylie Euland.
Michael Connor Ford.
Maggie Hughes.
Kayi Kim.
Fiona Sheehan.
Camille Hastings.
Jillian Robinson.
Terry Lazara.
Stephanie Seto.
Kasima Lee.
Legion May.
David Matthew Herrick.
Leah Maxine Wood.
Jose David Kakali Medina.
Juliet M. Randazza.
Madeline Fury.
Alex Ralston.
Yuan Kim.
Emily Florence Morley.
Anastasia Henderson.
Gabrielle Pavia.
Kiera Elizabeth Jesh.
Ayomi Rajapaksi.
Mahanur Khan.
Tori Shaw.
Catherine Jackson.
Sydney Murray.
Tianyi Lan.
Owen Nicholas Ivor Sates.
Bianca Sarah Johnson.
Clayton Scott.
Monet Jadon Larry Kerr.
Eric Villani.
Elizabeth Renee Kirk.
Christy Schultz.
Oliver Hearn.
Lauren Newton.
Jacob Cargill B.I.
Alec Salemsley.
Natalie Christine Beauregard.
Tyler Vasquez.
Basil Hariri.
Joshua Nadel.
Tommy Conkling.
David Reedy.
Brooks Balsinger.
Daniel Weir.
Logan Donsek.
Michaela Wright Petrick.
Nicholas Lipari.
Caitlin Rebecca Cray Ormoro.
Truhan Lier.
Shachar Wattenberg. And Sarah Siddiqui. Kylie Ruth Wilson. Claire Peitel. And Charlie Thompson. Congratulations to all our 2022 MPA graduates.
The energy in this room expressed by so many people who love you, who have so much pride in the tapestry that you are weaving, with Evans School part of that. We're so excited to see what you do next. Please stay in touch and join us outside to celebrate a little bit more in the community this amazing accomplishments. Congratulations.
Let's celebrate.